I
already introduced. Good morning, Kibidua Palelo Mataosani, Yako Kaulonya Tamaka Kumakwanegemo Parliament Tengele Locola Committee ya PAC.
Good morning, everyone. I am Sam Diwa, Member of Parliament for Buteti West, a member of PAC.
Dumela Metso ke gore tetse ke kgonegile Mau East. Thank you.
Madume go botlhe ke bidwa Victor Phalogolo Kanye West, Member of Parliament le leloko la committee ye.
Ke bidwa Otele Pitch Lesedi Sorowa South MP, member of this committee.
Renale Babar Tusang, different ages, like Aitalosa.
Good morning. My name is Sapapiwa Muzumi, Principal State Counsel at Attorney General's Chambers.
Dumelam Kibidua Bakam Mutake from Office of Accountant General in the Ministry of Finance.
Good morning, Kibidua Kutsafalo Amen, the acting AAG wa Accounts and Reporting.
Good morning, my name is Janet Mahana from Office of the Auditor General. I'm the Deputy Auditor General responsible for local governments, parastatals and ministries audits. Thank you.
Good morning, Kibidua Naomi Mobi from the Office of the Auditor General. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Industrial Courts, can you introduce yourselves?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable members of this committee. My names are therefore Huitswane Bohosi. I'm the Registrar of the Industrial Court. And I'd like my Controller of Accounts to introduce herself as well.
Dumelang, Kibidua Seneo Monghati, Control of Accounts, Account Unit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Normally we start by taking an oath, and I shall administer that oath, and I shall ask the registrar to stand up and choose an option you prefer. You seek to use the Bible, or you want affirmation?
Bible.
Bible. Yes, then you can put your left hand on the Bible and the right hand, and raise your right hand.
I, therefore, Huitswane Bohosi,
swear by Almighty God,
that
the evidence I shall give, before this committee of Parliament, shall be the truth, and nothing else but the truth. So help me God. Thank you, sir. Controller of Finance. I, then your name and let's start again. I swear by Almighty God, that the evidence I shall give before this committee, shall be the truth, nothing else but the truth. So help me God. May sit down. By way of starting our proceedings, we would start with the executive summary, and we would ask the registrar, who is the county officer, to give us a brief presentation of the executive summary. Accounting officer.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Before I begin my executive summary, I would first and foremost wish to unreservedly apologize to this honorable committee for having initially submitted a report that had some discrepancies. The primary discrepancy being that there were some pages that were unnumbered, but we've tried to rectify that situation, and I do apologize for that mishap and for the inconvenience caused to this honorable committee. The second aspect is in terms of within the report itself, there are certain annexures that have been alluded to in the report that unfortunately in the rush of making copies were not attached, but we come bearing those annexures, and the control of accounts will address them substantially. I do apologize.
Okay, it's fine, go ahead. But I do note that you say you're on the rush of photocopy, rushing to come to public accounts committees. This photocopy should be done well in time, so that you don't rush through it.
That is correct, and these are the learnings that we've taken on board, and we will ensure that such a mishap does not occur again.
Thank you, sir. Proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The Industrial Court is a court of law and equity established by the Trade Disputes Act. Its mandate is to settle trade disputes as well as secure and maintain good industrial relations in Botswana. Since 2004, and as at the reporting period, the court has expanded its capacity, now comprising of 9 judges. 2 of these judges serve in Francistown Division, while the remaining are based in Gaborone. But in terms of the current situation is that the court now has a 3rd division being in Maun, at which there's 1 judge there. So it brings the complement to 10 judges. We also conduct circuit courts being in Khansi, Shakawe, Gumare, Silebe Pikwe, Letakane, Palape, and Zabong. Sometimes the rate and frequency of conducting those circuit courts are limited due to budgetary constraints. Honorable Chair, during the reporting period, April 2021 to March 2022, 1,198 cases were registered. 1,484 cases were completed. The court remains committed to enhancing service delivery by providing training for judicial officers and support staff with a focus on utilizing virtual platforms. Training sessions have covered various topics including electronic case management, judicial ethics, mediation and conciliation, performance management development, and enterprise risk management. During the reporting period and in response to the pandemic and to ensure uninterrupted proceedings, the court had embraced temporary digital platforms such as WebEx, Zoom, Teams, and email for hearings and filing processes. During that period, virtual hearings significantly cut operational costs. Some of our challenges and strategies. Honorable Chair, the court is still operating a manual record system which adversely affects service delivery. Efforts to computerize the court records management system have been delayed. It is envisaged that the system, after completion, should be able to electronically capture, track, store, and manage reported case processes, provide secure online filing to ensure integrity of records, ease of communication between the various departments and the parties to a case, including other relevant stakeholders, and provision for virtual court hearings. Litigants will be able to file their documents anywhere around Botswana as long as they have internet connectivity and beyond, and also track the progress of their registered disputes. We encountered some budgetary constraints, and that although we had introduced the temporary measure of virtual courts during the period, due to inadequate resources, we were unable to continue funding that temporary initiative. In conclusion, of my summary, I'd like to quickly touch on one of our challenges being that of court deposits. The industrial court has always had a challenge surrounding court deposit account, which includes, among others, unclaimed court deposits, missing records, being receipts from the industrial court and district labor offices. A reconciliation process is ongoing, but this reconciliation process requires various steps, 12 to be precise. I won't belabor this honorable committee by trying to recite them all verbatim, as it will take some time. Having said that, it should be noted that the initial reconciliation of the court deposit account began with a manual process to identify incoming credits from litigants. This was done using case files, payment vouchers T25, and receipts recorded in gaps. The manual reconciliation carried out in the year 2023-2024 covered 51% of the work. During the audit of the account, auditors observed that the method used was not effective. They recommended a different approach of scanning the ledgers and converting them into Excel format. Although a solution was eventually found to implement this, it has proven to be a cumbersome task. The process began with a few ledgers, and the results indicated that manual reconciliation is still necessary to verify entries. Due to the complexity and time-consuming nature of this task, which requires careful attention to detail to prevent errors, we are trying to see how within our budgetary constraints and human resource constraints can we dedicate time away from regular working hours to complete the court deposit reconciliation. With those final words, I thank you, Honorable Chair, and I thank you, Honorable members of this committee.
Thank you, Chief Registrar. Ke nako ya mapalamente gore ba botse dipotso kgotsa ba bate ditlhaloso mo pegong ya gago right. So honorable members, Honorable ke kgonegile, followed by Honorable Dirwa.
Thank you, Chair. Ra leboga mongamele team ya gago, re leboga le tiro e le dira mo lehatsheng. The Kansa Industrial Court. Industrial Court kana it's a court of equity. E le gore hantsinyana ba ba ko bo dikhutsane ba ba berekang ke bone ba ba ikuelang teng thata. Me ha re bua ka gore di case di a diega. International standard ya judgment ke 3 months. But the judgment a rona mo Botswana ko industrial court ke 9 months gore etswe akanya 9 months o molele hela thata. Motho ka botsa gore le dira go le kae go kopana le international standard.
I thank you for that question. Yes, indeed, the standard is 3 months, but that standard of 3 months is from the date that the matter has been completed, in which now a judge is given a period of 3 months to have rendered his or her judgment. Currently, the figure of 9 months that we're currently averaging is with respect from end to end, from the time that the case was registered to rendering of judgment. Within that nine-month period, the 3 months of the international standards of having to render a judgment from time that the matter is concluded is included within that 9-month period. However, having said that, you are quite correct that this is a court of equity, and we are very keenly interested in ensuring of improving that turnaround time. Hence, one of the major interventions that we are grappling with is moving from a manual system to a digitized system. As I indicated in my report for the reporting period, that the work had started, but there were delays. But talking to the current situation as at the 13th of May 2025, the case management project, it's at a stage where we...
Thank you. Harna na kusente. Case management system re utule. Ka Committee of Supply, Minister Ramotwana, we like 9 months. That is from KC Hela to judgment etwa. Ke 9 months. Or retse ya mina retsela hore kwena no we kwala mo gaeda hore go ntse jalo. Leta e bakang. A retsele hore se minister a se buang unless under oath or minister a wa maruri. Let us not because what you are saying and what the minister says, minister is saying you are not meeting international standards. When now you are meeting international standards, but the report comes from
you. Mongame hanka ke kare minister the minister Ed, but I think the record is in the Hansard. I'll just leave it at that. But I can never say that the minister Ed Mongame.
Are you here under oath saying limita international standard ya di judgment go industrial court ya 3 months ha case he dile ka May ka August the judgment ya
I'll re-emphasize that the minister did not err. I can never say that minister has erred. In terms of the average turnaround time, we are currently meeting those standards on an average, but then there are outliers in which we are not meeting that standard. Those outliers that are contained in the executive summary, they are termed backlog cases, Honorable Member.
Backlog cases, pending cases, ko industrial court di a gola ngwaga le ngwaga. Me ka 2023 you had 6 judges. Gompieno you have 10 judges, but gone mo hela ka bogone is not improving movement wa di case mo industrial court. Bothata ke ka go lebega bothata ise di judge palo ya tsone.
Thank you for that question. It's two-pronged. It's on the level of budgetary constraints, and it's also on the level of the manual system that we use. If you recall in my executive summary, I also indicated that we also conduct circuit courts. We only have 3 bases, Gaborone, Francistown, and Maung. But workers and employers are not solely located in Gaborone, Francistown, and Maung. And that is why, in an effort to speed up service delivery, we conduct these circuit courts. When I talk about the financial constraints, I'll give an example. For the 2023-2024 financial year, in terms of the budgetary requests that the industrial court made, we ended up being allocated a budget which was 6% less than what we had requested. For the 2024-2025 financial year, as against our budgetary request, we were allocated 11% less than what we had requested.
Sorry, yes. We have read that. But issue ke hore, how do you attach the budgetary constraints to increasing backlog?
The attachment comes with this, with the ever decrease and in completion for this financial year, 25-26, as against our budgetary requests, we've been given 18% less. So the impact is that because we only have 3 centers, Gaborone, Francistown, and Maung, we have to take services to the people. We have to conduct those circuit courts. The longer time we delay in attending to those circuit courts, the longer the turnaround time that those cases get attended to. So now faced with those budget cuts cumulatively over that 3-year period, in terms of pula terms, that's the equivalent of 25 million pula. It restricts our ability to, ideally, we'd love to do circuit courts in all of our circuit locations at the very minimal, every quarter, every 3 months, but we're unable to do that.
Thank you.
To such an extent that some of the locations we've had to abandon in total.
Thank you. The circuit courts areas, do they cover Chobe, Okovango, and Zambo area?
Our circuit courts currently cover Hanti, Shakawe, Gumare. It's not included in the executive, you'll forgive me. But I thought it was important that I had highlighted. It's currently, budget permitting, it's Hanti, Shakawe, Gumare, Selibe Pikwe, Letakane, Palape, and Zabong. We'd like to expand beyond that because from when we do an analysis of the various cases, quite a few of these cases, and we have a sneaking suspicion that even though we say that there's just over 1,000 cases filed in a particular year, there could be more. It could be that potential litigants, due to the distance and maybe the cost to get there,
Thank you. We understand. Issue ya limited enforcement of judgments. Hormental mote le thusa ho le kae to ensure hore judgments that workers get from industrial courts are enforced.
In terms of our scope of operation and our parameters, under the current legislative framework, our contribution is to the extent of issuing writs of execution. These writs are issued as against judgments that would come from the industrial court itself, and also orders that are coming from the Commission of Labor. Beyond that, of issuances of the writs, which are then handed to deputy sheriffs to execute, our scope is limited. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, who is coming next? Honourable Diwa.
Ke a leboga la presentation ya gago. In your presentation, you indicated to be having 942 pending cases. What type of cases are you talking about here?
The pending cases are basically all labor matters because our jurisdiction is restricted to labor matters. And the types of cases that we deal with, the most common ones are where there's been issues involving unfair dismissal, unpaid severance benefits and exit packages, unpaid wages. Those are the main cases that we deal with. That is our bread and butter.
Can you maybe guide us out of these 942 cases for a period of when were they registered? Maybe to indicate the period.
I do not readily have the information offhand in terms of a statistical breakdown of where specifically they were registered. But in terms of the 942, when we say they are pending, these would be carryover matters. As you'd note, from year to year, you'd have X number of cases that are registered in a particular year. But then at the end of a reporting period, we'd say we've managed to process to finality dilekana, which then gives a remaining balance carryover. So the 942 are the carryover, but I do not readily have the exact numbers of specifically where they are registered, but suffice to say that the majority of the cases, the leading center at which they are registered, ke Gaborone, followed by Francistown, and then we do get quite a few, ke Gaborone, Francistown. Now that we have Maung, increasingly they are registered here, but for this reporting period, in El Gaborone, Francistown, followed by Pique and Palape. That's where most of the cases.
Already cases. Do you have cases they might have been registered 5 years back, kind of 10 years back? By hadisi secure now. Because I'm saying this because there are a number of concerns from Botswana. Some have registered cases 7 years back and they have not yet been taken to court. That's up to now. So is this real? Are they saying the truth? Or ki di puo hela tsa bone ha gona cases tse ding tsenyang? I mean, do you have cases tse leng gore salary registered about 7 years back?
They are very rare. But I will indicate, to the best of my recollection, we do have a case that was registered in 2014 that is pending conclusion. But more than 90% of our cases fall within less than a 24-month period. I do say so because if you look at the executive summary, and this will be at page 2, under resolution of cases, on the third page, we do indicate that the industrial court has seen an improvement in the backlog of cases. Now, backlog at industrial court, we define as cases that are 24 months old. We've seen an improvement on the backlog of cases as compared to the last 2 years. It improved from 191 cases in 2021 to 91 cases in 2022.
Registrar, the question can I go?
Thank you.
In a case, 7 years to 10 years. They seem that they attend you. That's the question from.
Yes, to the best of my recollection, I can state that I know of at least one case, it's one from 2014.
Which is 11 years old.
Which should make it 11 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So in your view, her case in Nabo 11 or 5 years, what do you expect from the working relationship, Kotiro? The impact of it, making the employer. Do you ever revisit some of these things to find out maybe how the working relationship is?
Thank you for the question. Of course, the relationship would not be the best. That is one. Secondly, it's not a situation that we'd like to find ourselves in, where we have a case that has dragged on for 11 years, and hence the interventions that we are putting into place to address that. The third one is that we, through the interventions and even the current situation, is that with our enhanced data capturing, we're able to now more succinctly identify those cases and then bring them to the attention of the relevant judicial officer to see if they can't be completed sooner. But of course, the relationship would be very strained, and it's, I will admit, it's an unreasonable time to wait 11 years for justice.
Are you in a position to give us the dates of which some of these cases were registered, this pending one, so that we can see how it impacts on the relationship of industrial relations?
Right now, sitting here, I wouldn't want to commit perjury. I can submit the information after the sitting, going through the data, and specifically those matters that are older than 24 months, list them, and the parties then can provide to the committee. I do not want to commit perjury.
Re kopa hore o dira jalo, o re neele record ya di-case tsotlhe tse di nang le more than 24 months. O di break it down yalo, statistically, or tse di nang le 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, yala jalo. And then submit to our secretariat. No, wait a minute.
I can see that you have only, you amend in only 3 courts, that is Francistown, Gaborone, and Mau. What fails you to field judges in other areas?
It goes back to the issue of budgetary constraints. And I think the example that I gave, over the last 3 years, cumulatively, we've been given 25 million pula less than what we have requested. And with each cut, and you'll notice the trend. Year 1, it was 6% less. Last year, it was 11% less. This year, it's 18% less. I don't know, or next year, is it going to be 25% less or 30% less? But, and hence why we're in a rush to put in place a digitized case management system, because we realize this is the reality that we are operating under. We're trying to do more with less. If we were given our budgetary requests, like for example, right now, when I say we've been given a premises, but the best we can do is to, every Tuesday, to go and register cases. If we had the resources, the place that we have been given, one of the blocks, we can see that we can refurbish it, and have a permanent judge there to service that area. We're very concerned about that area. Kapotsabong, it's an underserviced area. It's an area of interest to us. We finally made a big breakthrough to have Maung operating. But if wishes were horses, and what we'd envisaged that we'd hope that we'd be operating permanently out of Kako Pikwe, Korsets in Rihilwele, and Air Lebella Kako Tsabong to service that area. So, but unfortunately, it's the situation that we find ourselves in. But we're not crying, we're seeing how to then pivot and make it work. And why I'm emphasizing the digitization is that we've realized, for example, that the police, quite a few of our police stations have internet connectivity. And if we get our system working and right, and we can conduct virtual courts, we envisaged in the future that rather than somebody going to Gaborone, Francistown, or Maung, hale ko Gumara, hale police station with internet connectivity. Re bereka in collaboration le police or re kope space for motho ka tla go to sit for matter in a virtual. We're also looking at hiving off. We noticed that there was the whole connectivity. We don't know the strength of the internet connectivity, but this is where we're looking towards the future, where we realize that in terms of our recurrent budget allocation, the bottom line is that for every 100 pula that we are requesting, it's shrinking and shrinking. So it's either we pivot and operate under the current realities, or we can't just sit and not do anything. But if we had the budget allocation, definitely, we'll cut our suit according to the cloth that we're given. Thank you.
I am done, Mr. Chairman, but I'm really concerned about the backlog.
Thank you very much. The concern is about the backlog. So you are going to give the information to the secretary here in Parliament, right? Because we really need that information. Honorable Member? Honorable Mahi.
Thank you, Chairman. As you realize, there's that concern regarding the backlog and turnaround time. What happens? What action is taken against those judges who actually don't do their cases on time, and resulting in the backlog and the turnaround time affected?
Thank you for that question. In terms of the Trade Disputes Act, the Industrial Court is administratively headed by the registrar. And that's as far as I can go in. It's been, in June it will be almost 2 years as the accounting.
You are not aware of anything that was done regarding, because indeed the backlog sometimes is due to ineptitude, judges not really doing their work. Simple as that. But anyway,
Yeah,
the next question.
Me arabe putso.
Okay.
Hi Arab.
Okay.
Araba putso county officer. Gore ha gona le judge yo neela maraputshweni a ba tsa kga ya motho le baka le lelele. Go dirwa eng? Is there a consequence?
And I'm saying that, Chairman, because go High Court, it's on record. Some judges' action being taken because they delayed cases.
Please answer the question.
Thank you. I think the simple answer to that question is that it's beyond my purview, and it's beyond my parameters and capacity and capability to even hazard a response.
Miki mayo tota ena tshwanetse go tsa kgato ha e le gore judge ga e dire tiro.
Through you, Chair. O ra hela ka ha tsamaiso, not wena gore a wena o kgona go tsaya dikgato, but hela tsamaiso within the judicial system. Ha judge a tsaya lebaka le le kana-kana go diragala eng in terms of the disciplinary process?
Answer the question, and Ramona, you are still on the floor.
Well, in terms of the Trade Disputes Act, as I've indicated, I'm the administrative head. Yeah, the Industrial Court. Judges of the Industrial Court, in terms of the Act, are appointed by the President. And that's the extent.
Yeah, appointment is appointment. Supervision is supervision. You are the accounting officer. And the question is, what happens? Obviously, you should be knowing what happens when a judge is not doing his work. And we are not saying you in particular. We are saying the system. What happens? I mean, if I don't do my job as an MP, somebody is responsible for making sure that I do it. So it's a simple question, I think.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. I'm the administrative head, the judicial head. Yeah, the Industrial Court gave the Judge President. I suppose it will have to be brought to the Judge President's attention.
Okay,
thank you.
I think it has been answered. You can go ahead, Ramona.
Well, thank you. Although I'm not happy with the answer, but let's move on. When you talk of, I should congratulate you and commend you for having those virtual courts, but don't you think another issue could be maybe having some makeshift courts in certain places? Like say in Molepola, you go to Molepola and ask for community center or a conference at a lodge and then hold your course there? Is there any possibility of going that route?
Thank you for that question. And in fact, when we talk of circuit courts, that's exactly what happens in those locations. And then we go there. But bearing in mind that for those circuit courts to happen, we use the very same judges that are sitting in Gaborone, Francistown, and Maun. What it means is that, like recently, the most recent circuit court we conducted last week was in Tsabong. It required a judge who is based in Gaborone to then leave his courtroom and his matters that are before him in Gaborone to go and then push Zediko go Tsabong. So these very same judges that are in Gaborone, Francistown, Maun, they carry the additional burden of being the circuit court judges. And finances permitting, I'd be more than happy to motivate Hotahamola Polore. But I suppose I'm now lobbying for support the budgetary provisions. But yes, we'd love to do that.
Okay, last question. Fill us up here. The relationship between industrial court and high court. Is there any possibility of a judge at high court at Tusa Hongwe, more industrial court, Hongwe or busy? Abe one judge can you come and preside over this case? Is it permissible? And has it ever happened? And do you see it one day happening?
In terms of the practicalities, the quickest route would be, if funds were permitting, to have acting judges on board. I think they would help to push our backlog. Because when one looks at the data and the analysis over the last several years, and even currently, we are seeing that the situation is improving. But there's this ball and chain, this legacy, this backlog. But if we did have the resources, we could get 2 acting judges, focus more backlog. Because when one looks at the rate at which cases are now being registered and the rate at which they are being disposed with the current complement of the judges that we have and the challenges that they have, aside from being based at their primary locations, but also now having to go out on circuit. When one looks at the gap and the numbers, there's been a good improvement. It's just this legacy issue, backlog, so I believe from where I'm sitting, 2 acting judges in a few months would be able to push those matters.
Thank you very much. Honorable Lesedi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, accounting officer and your team. Maki boele ha ho ile ya 11 years, case ile 11 years. Kana no ole specific to yone. Ile ngwe ya tse di diegileng go gaisa. Me o no bua ka 10%. Mo go 100% no bua ka 90%. Mo supa gore 10% e saletse. Tota ne ke re gongwe ke re mo mabakeng wane ha ele gore case de ile ya unfair dismissal ile ya di benefits or something e be ile gore ya go tsa lebaka le kana a mme ko phello nyano ga go nne le ditamorago mo go ene yo a beng a ikuetse ke ra like re bona jaano go tabo go ka nna le le dintsho or something tota hela le thusa jang mo situationeng eo because la la gore na itsheka gore ga dismiss you as in 13 years is too much a ko o thalose gore tota mme hela le bona tota seemo se le ka se tokagatsa yang go thusa babereki. Thank you.
I thank you very much. I'll go back to the interventions that we are putting in place. Tsa go tokahatsa seemo. Case ya 2014, tota there's no way I can try and dress it either which way, but to say that it's unfortunate. But in terms of where there are any payments that are to be made, and if in the unfortunate incident that Motona Iteka the payments would go to the beneficiaries.
No, ke a tlhaloganya ke ra gore after how long kana ha re bua ka ene yaanong kana ha se tsamaile obviously gore ha gona yo second case ya le tabole le ba hela ka masupi a tabong a se tsa le tebe le gore le ka tsana kwa lona hela gore le hetse case be le gore jaanong ena after how long, but not necessarily yone hela kore se ke se buang ke gore tsone di cases tsene tse di mo 10% ntse tota bona mmele le ka go thusa jang not kore di intervention ke a duta me ga di dire pharologanyo because go ntse jalo gona do le di interventions tse o dintsi di le teng.
No, thank you very much. The intervention it super maduo ko pele. Yaka ke bolela gore the major key one through the digitization our court management system. It's not just aspect they are the virtual court. It's the whole end-to-end experience because now that it will be digitized, the probability of things falling through the cracks will be minimized because the digitization at the end process starts from over the iteka a kgona go uploada kwa leng teng dipampiri tsa gagwe all the way through to the virtual file that is created. Case tshwara the virtual documentation it's an thing, and then also with built into it is diary prompts to diarize and prompt for a kana judgment is due or kana case it's an all the way through to then even the ease of access the judgments, which then also creates ultimately a public platform where but case is at what stage, because even though I've cited 2014 of which it will come out more clearly in the report that we will submit. At what stage it was at. It may have been, some you may find judgment. Some you may find it's partly heard. So there are various factors, but I think what we will submit to this committee in terms of even further unpacking and getting more reliable data. So I'll circle back to the whole digitization because and why we've indicated having manual records as a challenge. Manual records do not help with data and analytics.
I guess you have attempted to answer, now you are moving in circles.
Me gone accounting officer sengwe sa dilo tse di teng ke gore usually some of the lawyers ba bong ba emetse bahiri o ithala sometimes ba kopa postponement gantsi mo e leng gore gongwe go hella ka mabaka a bo gore di sick leave and other reasons di judge di dira eng gore this postponement ya no se ka ya abusive.
I believe the judges take reasonable measures within the context and peculiarities of each case in trying to weed out any attempts for unnecessary delays. This is also balanced with, I think as you've indicated, sometimes it's not necessarily the respondents or the defendants who request postponements. There are instances where even le bona ba ba itsaka ba kgona go kopa le tsone di-postponement. And the judge assesses whether the reasons are legitimate and reasonable. And in granting those postponements, now comes the issue of setting of dates when the matter can be heard. And ordinarily you find that a judge's diary would be packed to some run several months, some already their diaries are filled into next year. So your next date they are on much later. But a judge does look and weigh at all the factors and acts accordingly. Thank you.
Hey, me accounting officer, uka ha overview of the cases against the government departments, like parastatals, local government, and other ministries. Overview. Sir.
From an overview perspective, I cannot readily provide any numbers. But in terms of, with respect to government, the cases fall into two main categories. The first category is with respect to collective rights. In short, that it's cases involving trade unions and government over various issues that deal with collective labor rights. And then the other category are cases where it's individual employees suing government. On the aspect of the individual employees, the ones that we pick up that are general are with respect to issues around delayed progression, issues pertaining to disciplinary processes and procedures, issues relating to unfair or unequal treatment. Those are the main categories. And the other one is with respect, although the scarce skill. Then with respect to the collective rights, they cover a range of issues. The most recent one we've had was one involving the Botswana Doctors Union and government with respect to a collective right pertaining to the area of, well, it boils down to working hours and benefits that may or may not accrue to how they are scheduled to work.
Thank you very much. I think you have answered relatively your last question.
No, I have done.
You're okay.
I'm done.
Honorable Paul Holo.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Good morning, Rabbi Rossi. Two questions I have. One, it's a follow-up on the backlog issue. My first question is, do you have any desire to eradicate this backlog?
Yes, we do have a desire to eradicate the backlog, and currently, even within the limited resources that we have, in terms of the operations of the court has court vacation periods. What the judges have endeavored to do is to try, during those court vacations, to try and push through some of those matters. Rather than go on vacation, they have tried to then sit and keep pushing some of those matters. Secondly, as I'd indicated, the desire is, if we have the resources, the wish would be to have 1 or 2 acting judges, so that we dispense with the issue of the backlog. It's an issue of concern to us as well.
I guess there's a purpose for why there's provision for vacation in your court schedule. Would this not overload the work of the judges?
It does. And as I've indicated, they do try and push some through during the vacation. What I've noted from my observation is quite a few of the judges, rather than take the whole, sometimes it's a 3-week break, they end up taking maybe a couple of days out of the 3-week. But you're quite right, by continuing to overburden them, at some point someone may encounter a bit of burnout. But we're between a rock and a hard place. So,
perhaps not just burnout, but the quality of work put in. If somebody doesn't take a break, I mean, just to read these files last night, I tell you, for a lot of people, it's unbearable. So perhaps outline the plan that you have besides overloading the judges. Do you have a plan? Are you willing to put up a plan that will ensure that this backlog is eradicated? More so that the problem with backlog, or the employee can the hardest hit how you are before this court.
yes, thank you for that question. The fulcrum to the plan is trying to lobby for enough resources to have 1 or 2 acting judges for a short period to help to push the backlog. Because either which way that you look at it, with the number of judges that we have, as much as they'll also try during the vacation period, it will still keep piling up. So the short-term intervention would be having enough resources to have 1 or 2 acting judges for a couple of months to then push through the backlog. As I've indicated, it's a legacy issue that, yes, we're very keenly interested in eradicating.
Have you made a request for acting judges to the powers that be?
At this juncture, we had not made the request simply because we looked at our budget allocation. If we made requests within our budget for inclusive of it for temporary positions, of which this is where we'll derive a budget from, and we're only given 18% less.
So in your budget, priorities here, you'll rather prioritize developmental than backlog, because where we are now, and we agree that there is a backlog, and you still have not made any request for acting judges. I mean, should we believe you are desirous to eradicate the backlog? Because behind this backlog, now we see lives, we see people, and these people are suffering. I mean, it's not like it's just files and we see human beings behind those. And for us, one employee represents a family of 10. So if this person is out of work for so long, and in most cases unfairly, you are killing a family of 10 people at the bare minimum.
Yes, thank you. You're correct. And in terms of budgeting, it's two distinct things. The development budget and the recurrent budget, they do not mix. So if it was permissible statutorily to take funds allocated in the development budget and reprioritize them and cross them over into the recurrent budget, that is something that we would do.
I'm bringing this up because you say you have not, from 2017 or whenever, in your plan to eradicate backlog, you have not requested for acting judges. Is that not what you said?
I did indicate at this present juncture, we had not put in a request, and simply because having looked at the budget deficit that we encounter in our recurrent budget, it makes it difficult. But having been duly advised, we will go back and put in that request. And I suppose the worst that can be said is no. And but we will put in that request. And thank you for that guidance and advice.
I think you underspent in the year under review. What could have been the cause of that?
In the year under review, we utilized 99% of our recurrent budget. And that is why I was trying to make the distinction between the recurrent and the development budget, and where the pool from which we source the funds to be able to carry out trying to attempt to deal with their backlog. But as I've indicated, we are grateful for the guidance and advice, but Haraswa, we will put in that request as against the budget deficit that we have. But I suppose the worst, it's better to try than not to try at all.
Okay, thank you very much. I will continue, but you still underspend on the recurrent budget, by the way. So let's not make too much a fuss of it.
Yes, it's correct. We underspent by 1%.
Still an under expenditure.
I totally agree.
Thank you very much. Yes. On page 2, you stated that your mandate is to enforce writs of execution. The question now becomes, to what extent are you enforcing the writ of execution? In fact, at what extent are you assisting, especially poor litigants, reach a conclusion or finality to the matter that was before your court?
Thank you. First and foremost, our court and our court services, we do not charge a fee. That enables ease of access even to poor litigants for any of our services. Secondly, in terms of enforcement, as I had indicated, the extent to which we can go is to issue the writs, and if then they would have to be given to a deputy sheriff. We ourselves do not have deputy sheriffs, nor do we have the resources to pay for deputy sheriff services. But however, where a writ enforcement has been sought and there's a nola bona return, for example, we still assist in continuing on the process to see whether orders for garnishee and so forth can be obtained and enforced.
Would you agree with those who believe that because these are poor litigants, issuing out a writ is not really helping them because they don't have the means, the resources to see the conclusion of their matter? Would you not think there is need for a function that goes beyond just issuance of writ, but to even go all out and make sure that the execution is done?
Yes, I totally agree with you. When one looks at the profile of the customers that we serve, the majority of our customers who come to court are those who are on the lower end of the scale in terms of wages and earnings. And if it were possible, statutorily and otherwise, to have a suite of deputy sheriffs who are employed by the industrial court, whose function is to execute and enforce, that would be most welcome. Because that way then it then does, for those litigants who don't have the full resources of engaging those deputy sheriffs, because deputy sheriffs, well, one has to talk to them and they agree on, well, in exchange for my services, this is how you will pay me. The ideal situation for us would be to have those deputy sheriffs that form part of the industrial court that then complete the whole ecosystem, having looked at the profile of the clients that we have.
Last question.
Thank you very much for that answer. I think my colleagues have picked what you said. On digitalization, I think the COVID era provided us with a silver lining in terms of speeding or fast-tracking the digital use of platforms. Between the COVID era and now, how far have you moved in terms of introducing digital technology into the court system?
Thank you very much. As you will note that during the reporting period, we had indicated attempts to get that up and running. As of today, what I can happily report to this honorable committee is that we are on track to do an internal initial testing of our system towards the end of this first quarter and the second quarter. This is now the internal testing of the system. The system has been more or less developed. Now it is now putting it to a test internally to see where the gaps are before then being finalized and then being ultimately implemented. But its implementation and full rollout, should the testing period of the system be successful during this financial year, the rollout would likely be during the next financial year if we have all the necessary equipment.
But the question here is, during COVID, you introduced the virtual courts. Have this progressed, or there is none virtual court as we speak? That's the question. And how far have you gone with your court record management system? Has it gone full digital, or you are still transitioning into digital?
Yes, thank you. During COVID, these were temporary interventions. And I think, as I've indicated in my executive summary, various platforms were used to conduct them, but this was a temporary measure. We've been unable to continue with it due to budgetary constraints. The problem with the temporary measures was that they were not being conducted in a safe and secure environment or platform, being within the secure network, the whole government system. In terms of our records, the case management system that is now going to be put to the test during the first and second quarter of this financial year, the test encompasses end-to-end. It is the scanning and uploading of documents to create the digitized file, all the way through to doing a trial virtual court to see whether the end-to-end user experience delivers on what we're hoping for. The virtual court then, it records. It's hoped that then it will then also go into the virtual file. So at the end of the day, we have a complete virtual file.
Thank you very much. I think
file.
you have attempted to give an explanation. I think members, Honorable Tausani.
Hello, sir. One hundred pediana.
I didn't pedi.
Thank you. Accounting officer. First, congratulations for the over collection, of which I don't know. How did you manage this? And what are sources of your revenue? Where is this coming from?
She was suggesting that maybe those that relate to the accounts, then you could hold it until the time when we get to the accounts. That is our advice from.
Executive summary. Like in my next question, the reasons why tota understandile mo development budgeting ya bone ka gore ha ke le ba yana ke bone khanya dikoloi hela I don't know gore ke eng go suspend was it only dikoloi or what else was there ka gore ya digitalization ke bona gore hala dira sepe mo go yone as per your statement.
Yes, thank you. In terms of the under expenditure, as indicated in our executive summary, the under expenditure was due to delay in delivery of 4 motor vehicles, and then additionally, with respect to the case management system, the delays in it taking off. So that meant that the funds that had been allocated for the case management system during that financial year ended up being underutilized. And the explanation of why there was the delay is set out in the executive summary. Primarily because to develop the system, you need technical expertise. And a different ministry was engaged in finding that technical expertise. That process was delayed.
But as the end user, how do you, do you just leave it to that ministry that you engaged, or did you do anything to try and get them fast track your procurement?
We make every attempt. We don't just sit. Like, for example, with respect to the case management system, if the ministry that has the portfolio of providing the technical expertise indicates that Retsama processing, there's only so much you can do. In this particular instance, to do the case management system, it's something that had to be developed from the ground up. So you needed someone who has knowledge in developing software programs, at the book coding and so forth. So in the executive summary, we do set out that the relative entity had decided to go along the route of a hackathon to identify citizens who could provide the solution to what we need. And there was a delay in completing that process.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Tausani. You're very brief. Thank you very much. We proceed. I want to I want to venture into a few comments before we conclude this one and go to the accounts. First, I think it has been your realization today in this committee that backlog eradication should be a priority. And are you assuring this committee that when we next meet, you would have done a good job in terms of dealing with the backlog eradication? Are we getting an assurance from you as the accounting officer?
Honorable members, we undertake to report an improved picture with respect to backlog when we do appear next before this committee.
Thank you very much. We will be having your report, by the way. You are submitting it. The second one, which is also a big issue here, is the issue around enforcement of your judgments. We had to lemogile gore have ngwe di judgments are not di dintshitse ba hiri ba khona go di ignore. In that case, what happens? Kwe motho a sa tseye kgato mme lona le ntshitse judgment.
It depends on the execution process, because there's been quite a few writs that were issued and were executed. In other words, that either property was sold to get the money and paid over to the successful party, or there were attachments and then bahire ba decide ampa ke go clear sekoloto sa me before dithoto tsa me di rekisiwa. But it then also circles back to what Honorable Paulo Holo had talked about, issue pertaining around the deputy sheriff. Because simply if wishes were horses, if we have deputy sheriffs, industrial court, industrial court, it could go some way in helping.
Yeah. You know, you talk about a court of law and equity. You know, miwa itu rona le batho ba le bantsi ba ileng gore ba judgment di dule gore a duelwe 3,000 pula mme ga tla ipatele deputy sheriff. Deputy sheriff no cost more than 3,000 pula. Our one of the unfairness of the law of the court of law and equity. E le gore an wena o santse go duelwa 3,000 pula mme ga du ipatele deputy sheriff ene o cost much more than that. Do you see the unfairness here?
I see it, but currently, as the various statutory provisions stand, it's how it operates. Deputy sheriffs, so they also don't fall under our administration. They are administered out of the administration of justice. And
no, I'm looking at now.
Yes.
Mereki yo ene go tileng a duelwe 3,000 pula ha go hela me go tla ipatele deputy sheriff. We have come across those cases. They cannot afford a deputy sheriff. So, but this is a court of law and equity. But still, you have a person you also kgone go bona madi a gagwe a manyenyane ka gore ga tla ipatele deputy sheriff.
And I think I'll go back to Honorable Paulo Holo's comments with regards to the deputy sheriff. If we can ultimately find ourselves in a situation where the industrial court has its own deputy sheriffs, pays those deputy sheriffs, then those litigants, how we issue the writ of execution, they then wouldn't need to or a deputy sheriff. And it goes back to in terms of what we have control over. All of our services, we do not charge a fee. It's completely free because it's excess.
This is unfair to the lowly paid worker. You are not going to be deputy sheriff. Under the current legislative framework, is that what you are saying? Would you then propose maybe some legislative reforms? And we also want to take advantage maybe of the changes that have occurred in our country, take advantage of the idealism of a new government. Alika, oka propose as
My dream situation would having framework in place where the industrial court has its own in-house deputy sheriffs who then execute on those writs. Because in that scenario, successful litigants would not then have to carry the cost of an example who in a case maybe what is it and 2,000 pula, but deputy sheriff and on a lady charges. So if we can unlift that burden on litigants and it be carried by the state, that will be the ideal situation. That then helps to close the whole ecosystem. Yeah, the court of equity and fairness, because what you have clearly pointed out is that the ideals are there in place, but it gets you through the door, gets you all the way to judgment. But beyond judgment, that's where things start to go pear-shaped. So we can, I suppose I'm now lobbying to then have in-house deputy sheriffs or to then complete that service offering to our customers.
I want to put it to you that Parliament in-house deputy sheriffs. Diko industrial court. Agona le gore yanong motho a nne le bothata yo bo go lobile ja madi a go a le kotase, then in-house deputy sheriff can kick in and assist. I think Parliament is a very important issue. Ya bohelo ke yone ya the circuit courts and visual courts. When I was reading through, I thought the visual courts and the circuit courts could go a long way in terms of helping your work. I can't quite comprehend why you are not continuing at the virtual courts beyond COVID. After COVID.
One, because of budget. Two, which is more important, it's the...
But they're cheaper.
Yes, they are cheaper. The second important consideration, the methodology that we used fell outside of what one would say is acceptable and secure for sensitive records of that nature. Where do they sit and how can they be worked on? Because court records are sensitive documents, and the platforms that we were using temporarily, they are potentially, with people with certain technical know-how, they could potentially easily
County officer, but he used this method before. Method do the visual courts. Because there are certain sectors, say Lord, they are located outside circuit courts. For instance, how you go di policy kwa. Babereki ba di policy, bontsi ja bone ba thoka thuso ya court ya lona. Me ha ile ro dirisa virtual courts, then you could access them. When you go di policy in the go how go nna le bothata gape ja go that distance that you have referred to. So Mikuta gompieno ka ro batla go provide the excuse ya gore gompieno ke technical issues, sensitivity of court records, but you used this method before. Why can't you continue it?
Yes, thank you. That brings me back to where I'd indicated that the testing of our digitized system is taking place during the first and second quarter of this financial year.
So the digitized system will start working when?
If all the testing goes well during this financial year, I'll be counting on your support for when the budgetary request comes before you for the procurement of the hardware so that we could then go live during the next financial year, 26-27.
So you are saying year 2026, we should expect your digitization project to work?
barring anything unforeseen, testing during this year and sorting out any gremlins in the system, it's anticipated that during the next financial year, we should be able to go live. And as I indicated, that we will be putting in our budgetary request to now have the remaining hardware that we then require. And hopefully we will not get a response, a cut, 18% as against what we are requesting. We'll make a passion plea.
For now, we'll put it down on record that digitization is similar to the financial year. You will explain why it did not hire or analysis pieces in a padis again. Like a Dumalana Jalo, how analysis padistio that I was talosa, on hopadistirona, but a hopadisite, the system is at any hardware to talk. So for now, we are saying it should commence in the next financial year.
That is the plan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Me, Omarka, Chola Pelejano Ratsanamo. I would not entertain it ordinarily, but just quickly.
I'm a bit disturbed by Mike. I'm a bit disturbed by the response that you gave to Honorable Munahe's question about failure maybe to supervise the judges. So I'm wondering who is actually appraising them. So I need clarity on that one. What is what's the role of your opposition?
Honorable, I think we have canvassed that issue, and at the end he said, did you say the court president is the ultimate supervisor of the judges? The court president, right?
Who appraises them?
No, he said the president appoints, and we were saying,
that's what he said.
Doesn't it mean that even if the president appoints, someone else is supervising? I think this issue, Chairman,
okay,
is very important.
That's fine. I don't think you got him right, but it's okay. He can explain it further, because at the end he said, did you say the court president or please?
The judge president.
Or the judge president.
Is, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He actually said the judge president is the one who ultimately would then have to supervise the judges. I think it's taken care of. The accounts, and Madam, could you please lead us on that one?
Just the pages are not numbered, so we'll go. Elisa, you brought a numbered one or something. But anyway, after the executive summary, let's go to where it says part 1.
Executive summary, we go where it says part 1. This one.
Yes. Yeah.
You got it right, eh?
We will memo the table, unless Accountant General, everything.
Accountant General, I guess you are at our service. You will always advise as and when it is necessary.
Actually, sorry, monitor. We'll monitor.
Accountant General, Auditor General, he says monitor.
What about the ones with annexes?
No, how did you do it this year? This year? Yeah. The ones with annexes have been paid, eh?
Why monitor?
Because you'll take it's statement 14. We've just been talking the Accountant General Horace. Statement 14 there is a monitor, because these things will be there, Auditor General's reports. So instead of we should avoid all this dealt with.
There is no need we have kept on complaining about this, and there is no improvement.
Okay. We've discussed this statement 14 le Accountant General. We decided in monitor. You know, the kind of statement 14 came out there ho a emetse go tla go a go duelwa whoever is a tshwantseng gore a duele. So what we used to do ka statement 14 e le gore re memo tax because no gona le issue ya gore ba collect the income tax ya la ga ba ise madi ko BORS. So we wanted to monitor that monitor that process. That's why ne re ba ne ba memoa. So now we've decided already it will be monitored because it will be in the Auditor General's report.
But through you, Mr. Chair, here's a quick one. I understand this is money sitting somewhere, right? Yeah, no, one has been paid. I assume it is paid out. Why do you keep monitoring something that has been paid out? Why can't you close it?
What we used to do with memo and then we'll close. Yeah, no, these things this year I made it already born. Starting from the next sitting, this memo, the local Auditor General's report.
It's a decision you took like recently?
Era.
Okay.
No. That I explain now.
The question here, if you look at the paid Annex 1, paid Annex 2, let's monitor and pay the hell.
We close all the ones that have been paid, we will close them. We will monitor.
I think that was the advice you were giving, right?
Through Chair. Taloso e autlwala ke tsa gore gongwe go tla re tle re nne le nako because le re togetse ko morago kana ga di tswetse a ka re bona gore di tswetse nna ke tsaya gore gongwe sengwe se dilo tse ntse re di dira rona re le komite ra tswala sort of re hetsa dikgang so ga e le gore di tswetse ke lona hela ko maybe re tata re tlhaloganya afterwards
ga di tswale ke rona di tswalwa ke committee ke ra tsena. I was just explaining that these ones will be closed by the committee. The other ones will be monitored. In the committee, I got it wrong. Now,
no ga o na sa re tsele dithata o na hela bua gore meano committee yone ka dumalana ha e bona go tshwanela a ke re wa rialo mamlefi Honorable Lesedi na tsa re yana o ka ro batla o di tswala go sephiring.
No, committee yone e tswala ntile.
No, I can honana we monitor the whole page.
The ones which have been paid, we close them. The rest will be monitored.
Honorable Lesedi ke a itse gore ke motho mo dipalong tse
nya ha ke tshware ke tsa gore ka ra go toka gore ne re ka bene re discussitse Mr. Chairman so ha re ka ke ra bua yana in front of seemo se re mo go sone sa kana no ka re ga re dumelane do re tshwantse gore re siane le dipalo so ha ke re gore ke sala ke sa tlhaloganya gore re tswala mo gongwe ra monitor.
Okay,
usually re ntse re dira memo a ke re mo gongwe be re tswala so go ra gore ba dumelanye gore re monitor.
Okay,
for
now maybe we'll memo them. Okay, for now we will memo and close them.
We will memo and close.
Yeah, I can for now.
I think for now, Honorable Lesedi, we will do as we have been doing. We will memo and close as the committee, but then we will have to have a separate meeting where we shall discuss the matter. Thank you very much. Let's proceed, Madam. And you raise up your voice a little bit.
So we close number 7 and number 11 and 12. And then the rest are memos. And then next page we We, yes, 13 and, yes, close 13 and 16. The rest will be memos. We close 50, 50 and 41 and 44. And then the next one, they're all memos.
If you mention the pages, that will help.
They're not numbered, unfortunately.
Oh, by the way, he said.
Then we go to the next one where it says non-moving. Well, memo. But listen, it's a mainana appear kwa you're supposed to refer forward. So it's kara buaka, berabuara or buaka. Okay. Yes. And then this one, I get to like on the systems are accounting generally. But anyway, yeah. Would you like to comment on this one, accountant general?
Yes, it's a system error. Number 2, gaps.
And then the next page, statement 1. We close the first one, we memo the second one. Yes. And this one, Attorney General. Attorney General, this one.
Attorney General.
Eric Mais.
Yeah, so yes.
Under non-moving, right?
Impress.
Okay.
Non-moving,
right?
Impress.
The one with an extra B1.
Yes.
Yes.
Chuba Mike, thank you.
Yeah, Eric Maitso, he has paid. It was a matter that was outsourced to a private deputy sheriff. Yeah, no, currently we have an issue with getting the receipt. Apparently what he says is when he was paying deputy sheriff ga manela the receipt, so he can't provide the receipts. Deputy sheriff le no palwa ke gore nela the receipt, so we are still trying to figure out how to finalize it. Payment there, but then or at least that's what he says. But the deputy sheriff doesn't dispute or problem proof of payment.
So the deputy sheriff will confirm.
Mirana
receipt.
Mirana the receipt. And I think he hasn't been able to turn over to need payment that's a day.
What happens in that case?
And way forward?
We are still trying to, the last I heard, which was earlier this week, was that Barolwane are engaging the deputy sheriff to find a way forward. So they haven't come up with a solution yet. Yeah.
It's a memo anyway, and it's still appearing CAFA. That's why you should refer forward. Just so it's still the same person. I think the other issues have been dealt with. And dealt with. So we're done with the memo.
Okay. Done with the memo. Can go to Auditor General. Responses?
We go to the Auditor General's report. We close 3, 4, and 5. Oh, it's still the same. You see the count. It's still appearing. So you need to refer forward. but it's memo the first two. And then the next page 3, we memo the first one and close. Then again. Ma? Who appear mo asing. Is there a reason, Accountant General? No. And then what about Supoing? Page 4. Okay, then we close, then memo the other. And then we go on to the revenue. We monitor Zamile, Honorable, you wanted to ask about some. And then, okay, we monitor. And then we go to the development. I think we've already discussed the development. So it's monitor, the statement 3. And then the income tax on page 11. We close 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. The rest will be memos. And then 12, we close 14, 15, 16, and 31. Page 12. 31 and 24 and 20. The rest are memos. We close 14, 15, 16, 19, 24, 31.
What about 13?
Huh?
13?
Sorry?
13.
14.
No, 13.
13, okay.
It's spill over the next page.
Oh, okay. Yes. And the rest are memos.
13, we close it. What about number 30 and 31? What happened here? My dama be the same amount here, 30 plus 85 10.
Number what?
30 and 31. How la be listen. Me a ke mo itsela.
And then we have also a price appearing. 27, 28, 29.
Isam, Accountant General.
Can I comment?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Mine ke the temporary employees. Tse batle ba engage mo industrial court. So madi a ke a leng gore ha re sena go duela madi a lekgetho a sontse gore a ba iswa go BRS. So tla bo itlhala madi a leng gore a deduct a tax thing. Salary ya bona ke re e nna e tshwana. Obviously the tax is going to be the same. It can na ma 30 pula ona ma 30 pula. Depending gore a mo ngwageng wa teng. I was at the whole year. If it's 2 years then same tle ba na tax ya the same amount. That's why gonna go itlhala ba le babedi hala ba le bararo ba le kae. Antsa boele.
Yeah, me ha kgang ke gore e nngwe ra e tswala same ye nngwe ga re e tswale ka gore ke belaela gore ga re e tswale because a go attach your Annex ya evidence ya 30 re tswala 31 here.
30 is not close because go duetse ka 23-24, so tsena re di tswala is 22-23 financial year thing. So this one, that's why we said paid then 23-24. So 60-second book ke wena na tla be tla di tswala because di tswetse ka a different outside the year after.
Issues of cut-off point.
Yes.
Thank you. You can proceed.
Page 13, they are all memos. And then page 14, I think that's the one, it's a Libya monitor. Then we go to 15. Those are memos. I don't know whether you want to comment, Attorney General. I would say it is what
I would say he has, I think, 2 files with us. The one gonna lay 1.7, the writ is still pending execution. But because what we have now is he has a house that was supposed to be attached. We haven't attached it yet. He has asked that I take it because so he feels like if somebody else sells it, they might not be able to recover as much. So he's still trying to sell it so that he can offset the koloto tsa gagwe.
Okay, page 16. They're all memos. And page 17, they're all memos. I think the balances we discuss a accountant general. Then page 18, memo. Sorry? It still has a balance. In the after cut-off. Yes. This one, what's happening, Kayan? Joel. Is it closed though, Accountant General? Had it was closed?
No, it's a memo.
No, rather the attachment says this was closed in the
No.
F1. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the F2. Okay, memo. We're done.
We're done. It's not a very long one. I guess we have come to the end of this session. I want just to say a word that right to the utlule sengwe sa dilo tse di tshwenyang thata mo palamente ke gore dikgani tsa bo di buiwa mo PAC yone ya bo 61 ha re tsena go ya bo 62 re thela dintsi di eme gone ha ne di eme teng re gatella thata le komiti gore tota tse di builweng o bona di thwagaletswe ke mapalamente go raya gore kana go a bo go supa tota gore ke dikgang tse di tshwenyang batho ko ba leng teng ka jalo go raya gore tsotlhe tse re di buileng ha bogolo jang tsone tse di amang dikgang tsone tsa bo backlog eradication ha e ne dikgang tse e leng gore di salwa morago re bone gore motho ga a nne 11 years a ntsa a itsheka dikgang tsone tse tsa go enforcer ke tsao ke dikgang tse e leng gore a re di buele hela ha e le a matter of routine kgang ya go enforcer di-judgment I think let's work together ne ke rata le go kole no re you are lobbying us please continue to lobby us on issues like in-house deputy sheriffs we shall respond and respond positively ha o ka tswela gore lobby ya le rona re tla iteka ka kwana dikgang tse tsa digitization o di bua thata o ka re di le kgoreletsa thata kwa le kwa ga ye advance e bona le gore e tsweletse circuit courts ha di anamele le hatsele go na le batho ba bantsi ba ba kgakala le di-court tsa lona o ba nna kgakala gape le di-circuit courts so bangwe ba bone gongwe ke ba ba ka thusiwang ke tsone virtual courts hela jalo ke re ke dikgang tse di botlhokwa raetso ha re ko re thomamisa gore ha re ta gape next time around ke dikgang tse di advancetseng tse di ka kgonang gore bo di advancetse mme re lebogela go taga lona le ditlhaloso tsa lona next time di-page ya di-numberiwe go lebega gore nya mme go ne go thwagetswe a leboga I guess we can go for tea re ka ya ko teng ha re tswa kwa re tabo re kopana le ba Attorney General
I believe should be fundamental because people need to know what your office does, its functions. So perhaps I should take you to back to explain to this committee what maladministration is and the most common type of maladministration that you encounter in your work. It's from people who come to your office.
Thank you. I think when we talk about maladministration, we all assume that government has rules, procedures, standards of behavior, and that it is expected that when a government entity, be it a ministry, department, or a local corporation, such as councils, land boards, etc., make a decision, such a decision is made in accordance with the law, or in accordance with rules of procedure as laid out in the various statutes, or in accordance with standards that have been agreed on. So, for instance, a standard would be something like a turnaround that is agreed to say responding to communication. And where there's been a failure to comply with a particular law or a particular regulation, policy, etc., for no cause, then we will deem it that there has been an act of maladministration in the sense that there has been no non-compliance with what is expected of the entity to have done. And in that regard, a complainant is entitled to then, so a member of the public who is entitled to receive a service is entitled to issue a complaint with the Office of the Ombudsman for redressal.
The type of people who come to your office complaining of maladministration, especially those in government, in what category do they fall? Do you have people in your C-band, your middle management, or top management?
I think largely, and it's a matter of concern, Chair, that we do have a lot of cases, that currently a lot of our cases actually are from people in government who have other structures through which they can complain. But these are people who would be in the D, C, B, and A bands, largely.
So basically, the people who come to you are the lowly placed members of government?
On the most part, yes.
Okay. What measures, what tools do you use to measure your success, if ever there's any, in terms of reaching out and executing your mandate?
One, as I indicated, we have a standard turnaround time. One of the measures that we then use is their compliance with the standard time in terms of concluding a case that is laid before us, a complaint that is laid before us. That is one of the first tools that we use. So have we received a complaint? Did we finish it in 5 months? And then we also have, like as I said, we have public education drives. Are we able to reach out to as many of the public that we had set out in any particular year to reach out, to deliver, one, the message about the Ombudsman, and to deliver services?
So you also look at your resolution rate.
Our resolution rate is our measure point of achievement.
Okay. Looking at your load, would you say there's any desire on your part to eradicate the workload, backlog, if ever there's any?
Yes, obviously, we don't want backlog. But as I said, for as long as some backlog is created by failure to comply with recommendations, which we would finish investigations, we'd issue recommendations, but some stay on for a year plus. And for as long as they are outstanding and the member of the public is not satisfied, we don't close the case and it remains as backlog on our books.
do you ever encounter incidents where people actually come to your office for assistance and in the long run decide to look elsewhere because maybe the matter is not moving forward?
I think there are such cases, not many, but people do once in a while say, we think we want to go and explore other avenues for resolution.
Okay. Talking of indicators of success rate, would you say an increase in the load of cases a success on your part, or a decrease in people coming to your office? Will that also indicate any form of success in your work?
In an egalitarian approach, one would say that where we didn't have cases, one would assume that government is behaving properly in accordance with the law. An increase in cases indicates that there's failure in public administration. But the fear is that if cases are not brought to the Office of the Ombudsman, it may reflect not just that government is doing things properly, but that there is failure in belief that there are resolution points, such as the Office of the Ombudsman.
So in incidents where you find an increase, particularly in a certain area, what would be the intervention you put in place beyond just dealing directly with the complainant? Is there a function? Is there a mechanism? Or you would do better if there is a function beyond just dealing with the complainant and a particular MDA?
Where there's a particular, say for instance, there may be a particular type of complaint from any particular MDA. It would show a systemic failure. So from time to time, we then engage one. If we see a systemic failure, we would issue an advisory to the concerned ministry or department and say, we think there's a failure here that needs to be addressed. Or alternatively, we engage with the ministry to say to them, this is a problem here, and this is the best administrative practice that we think should be put in place to deal with this problem.
What has been the feedback you receive from your clients, those who come to complain? Are they happy? Are they do they appreciate the service you offer?
Remember, there will be two types of recommendations. One recommendation can be in the favor of the complainant, or the other may be to reject the complaint as not being substantiated or unfounded. Obviously, in the latter state part, the member of the public would not feel comfortable and actually would feel unhappy. But for those that one have received positive redress, they feel comfortable and will give us positive feedback.
Going towards the close of my exam, let's talk digitalization. How far is the Ombudsman introducing digital technology to advance and reach out to a lot of people?
Thank you for that question. We have, I think, since the last 2 financial years, introduced a computerized file management system. This was meant to ensure that we minimize the hard copy files, because documents tended to get lost, correspondence tended to get lost. But the interesting part of it was that we would then have also enhanced the ability of people to actually lodge complaints through that system, say by SMS, by WhatsApp, using the government portal. But the government data network has been a challenge in that regard. So that portal, we had expected that it would have been opened in the past financial year. We have not had access to it.
Okay. You done, right? Honorable Monageng?
Thank you, Chairman. As we all know, your main role and mandate is crucial dispute resolution. There's a general view from the public that you have limitations imposed by the Ouster Clause and the Ombudsman Act, hindering judicial reviews of its decisions. That's a view that I personally have. And also concerns exist regarding potential lack of transparency in administrative decision-making, the issues of the impact on government accountability and potential undermining of the rule of law. I would like your views on this, and also the fact that sometimes we regard the Ombudsman Office as lacking independence. How independent are you? And the cases that you undergo, are there some that you work under pressure? Maybe like DIS. I'm saying this because that's what sometimes we read in media, that sometimes DIS does put you under pressure to drop some cases. Is that the case? Thank you.
Thank you. I think I want to clear the issue around the Ouster Clause. You recall that the Ombudsman is created in terms of the Act, and the Act specifically provides that in the discharge of his functions, the Ombudsman shall not be subject to the direction or control of any person or authority, and that such a decision shall not be challenged in a court of law. It serves two purposes. Remember, the complaints that have been made are made against government ministries, departments, and other agencies of government. And the idea about having that clause is that once you've engaged on a dispute resolution process, then no one should be in a position to say or direct the Ombudsman to reach a decision in any way, but should reach a decision on the facts placed before it without influence. I believe that we are holding to that standard. I'm not aware of any instances where it has been alleged that we have been some authority, such as the DIS that you mentioned, had sought to influence any decision of the Ombudsman. Strictly because of
not necessarily influencing, but asking you to abandon a case, a particular case. This has been recorded in media several times.
I'm not familiar with that. I would not have read that. But I think the biggest issue that one would say the public would complain about, from where I stand, is the fact that decisions of the Ombudsman are, in terms of the law, termed recommendations. And this is where the biggest problem comes. Because when you issue a recommendation, the simple, straightforward meaning of recommendation is that you can comply or not comply. And that is the position that then the government departments would adopt, that this is a mere recommendation. It's not an order, as if it were an order of the court. That is where the biggest challenge for me would be.
Thank you so much.
Last one.
Okay, thank you.
You mean you are not aware of some kind of tussle, DIS, le Ombudsman? You are not aware of such?
No,
in the past?
In the past.
During the time of Time Katlolo, if I may mention a name, you're not aware of such? No.
Is that you're thinking of DCC? Because time on Kakolo.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I accept your
You were thinking
answers.
about,
yeah, I had
DCC.
confused with.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Sorry, Chairman.
No problem. Can we move on to Honorable Kekhonerile?
Thank you, Chair. Me re ho dumedisa advocate le team ya gago.
Thank you.
You estimated 20,000 on revenue collection. You collected 57,000, almost 3 times. What is your revenue stream and what are the reasons of the collection being 3 times your anticipation?
As I indicated, that we are a very small department. We don't have much. We don't raise fees for services rendered. Our revenue streams should be petty things like collection of telephone bills, sale of tender documents, sale of containers, etc. For this particular year, we actually had sold more tender documents than we had anticipated. And hence the jump in that to that 179% excess that we had collected.
Thank you. You talked to enforcement challenges of your decisions or recommendations. What are your recommended solutions in terms of enforcement of your decisions and recommendations? Will it be a change of law? What do you think is the solution?
I'll tell you, I've got a very ambitious proposal, Chair. The ambitious proposal would be that in this very committee of Parliament, there be included a stream of reporting where ministries are able to report compliance with Ombudsman's recommendations. So I would make that it be one of the ways that we can then check whether there's actually, because a lot of this is performance management. So if ministries have failed to
the effect that maybe Ombudsman must be legally empowered to litigate. What is your view on that?
You may recall that in terms of the new act, the 2021 Act, the Ombudsman is legally empowered to actually litigate where there are issues relating to human rights. But also, if you go into the Act, remember the Act, I said, provides that the Ombudsman's decision shall not be challenged in any court of law. So if we start litigating ourselves, it means now we are opening ourselves to challenge by other people. So we want to put a decision, we make a decision and they don't comply. We are indirectly putting in a review of the Ombudsman's decisions by the back door.
That clause, do you see it as constitutionally compliant? I mean, can one take a decision about me and I can't challenge that decision in court?
Remember, most of the decisions that you are talking about would be decisions against government ministries. And therefore, we are essentially looking out possibilities of a government department wanting to have a legal revision of the Ombudsman's decisions. These 5 people who may want to review and litigate, especially using the findings and recommendations of the Ombudsman.
Thank you. Let's go to AOJ cases. It's ironic that such a small ministry department would have such large number of cases. What kind of cases are we talking about here?
The cases actually emanate from people who have appealed decisions in the court system, and where the appeal records have not been processed on time for various reasons, such as you get an explanation from the AOJ that they do not have sufficient manpower to generate the records of proceedings that are needed for appeals. This is one of the areas that I think we need to also discuss with the AOJ as to how to resolve such problems. Because largely this is what comes from the complaints around the AOJ.
Would it be a right conclusion to say AOJ is denying a lot of people justice? Would it be a correct, explorable conclusion to say there must be a crisis at AOJ?
You'll recall that in terms of the Constitution, everyone is entitled to a spare and to a fast and speedy hearing of their cases, which means that the systemic failure at the OAJ, of course, impedes access to justice in that regard.
Going to conclusions, Chair, I think it will be the last 2 or 3. Mau has the lowest at 26% cases completed. Why is it the case? What's the problem at Mau? Why is Mau office not performing as per the expectations?
There are two explanations. The first one is structural. So within the Office of the Ombudsman, we only, for instance, as of now, we only have 3 investigators, and one of those is the head of station. So he's responsible for managing the office. We hope to get 2 more additional investigators, but also because a lot of the cases from Mau then get referred to headquarters in Gaborone, and that takes a lot of time in resolving the issues. And remember, the Mau office actually covers quite a large area. So I would normally say it covers from Parakarungu to Gudigwa up to Charles Hill. And there is only a total of 5 investigators at the most at any given time. So they are clearly overwhelmed.
What will be an ideal staff complement? And when do you intend to establish it?
We would think an office like the Hmong office would want to have about 8 investigators looking at the space that it covers. So that is the Chobe, the Ngamiland, Okavango, Hanzi, and Charles Hill districts all put together. So about 8 investigators would have been what we would have desired. But obviously we operate within the manpower ceilings and freezes. And therefore it's very difficult to actually get additional investigators.
You said your Maun cases get referred to Gaborone. Why only Maun cases seem to be referred to Gaborone in large numbers? Is it an issue of headship? Is it an issue of decision making? Is it an issue of you have centralized certain decisions in Gaborone? Don't you see that as having a negative impact?
Oh, no, sorry, excuse me. Not that we as the Ombudsman refer the cases to our office, but that decisions or investigations often need for the investigated agency to refer to their headquarters in Gaborone. But the chief legal investigator in Maung is entitled to complete cases and only refer a very small percentage, less than 10%.
Okay, thank you. Last one, Chair. There is talk of independence of oversight institutions like Ombudsman. What is your view? Would you say Ombudsman is independent? And if it's not, what would be the ideal scenario of an independent Ombudsman? Thank you.
The issue of independence for me is, remember that there are two approaches. You have the functional independence and the administrative independence. I think the functional independence you are satisfied with. The problem lies with the administrative independence, where we are channeled through the Ministry of Justice, and therefore all our budgeting, for instance, is done through the Ministry of Justice. In the ideal situation, an agency such as the Ombudsman would have been able to make a case for their budget independently to a committee of parliament, for instance, without having to then go through a minister who goes to parliament. So in other countries, actually the Ombudsman presents their case to the responsible oversight agency, committee of parliament for consideration of their budget, directly presented by the Ombudsman himself. So for us, then that would take us away from the strictures of the being under the direction administratively of any other government entity, such as the ministry.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Advocate, County Officer. Few questions.
Is it possible to chip in before you finalize, Chairman?
I'm going to be generous. I'm going to give you,
Just
each one of you, after my interventions, I'll give each one of you a chance to make follow-up.
Sure.
Because I've just got a briefing that allows me that flexibility.
Yes. Most of that
Thank you.
couple of members are not around.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. No,
No.
I'm continuing. You'll come next. I'm going to give you a follow-up round.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. First, you mentioned that your services could be found in about 4 stations.
Yes.
Around Botswana.
Yes.
Would you say with that, your office and your services are accessible to a majority of the people of the Republic of Botswana?
Chair, this is one area that concerns us as well, the issue of the footprint of our office. For instance, we had proposed to open an office in Palate during this financial year, but the financial strictures that government is operating us prevented us from doing that. I just gave an example of the Maung office, which I say covers from Parakarungu to Gudi.
That's what you said, yes.
Yeah, that is the kind of situation that makes it even difficult for our clients to access our offices. So, for instance, a person in Hukunzi struggles to come to either Gaborone or to go to Tsabong to lodge a case.
So we can safely conclude that your services, as the Office of the Ombudsman, are not accessible to a majority of the people of the Republic of Botswana.
They are not accessible in the manner that we would wish for them to be.
So are they accessible or just in the manner you wish them to be?
No, they are not accessible at the level that we think they should be, because one, for us to actually go out, we actually go from time to time and conduct what we call clinics. So we'd go out and spend a day in your case, Honorable Chair, in Bobono. But it only means that for people who are in Bobono on that day, may access our services. A person who's in Matatani may be constrained to come to Bobono on that particular day, even though we had come to a clinic on that day. So that is where the lack of access comes in.
Yeah. You have an expansion plan?
The expansion plan was, as I said, was to open in Palape, but also to have smaller satellite offices adjacent to the other, to the core offices in the various districts. So maybe set up a small office with 2 people in, say, Mabutsani, or 1 in.
That is in your strategic plan, or
that is in our strategic plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in terms of the plan, when do you hope to open those satellites and the other office in Palape?
Subject to Minister of Finance allowing us to carry out our ambition, we hope that in the next financial year, we would open at least one additional office and several satellite offices in the far-flung areas.
I think that is important. Given the importance of your office, I think it should be accessible by many of our people. Let's look at the issue of resolution rate. That your resolution rate is 46%. And I follow up on what Honorable Polokolo talked about in terms of what do you use to measure your success. At 46%, would you say you are doing well in terms of servicing the people of the Republic?
Our target is to complete 90% of the cases within the stated resolution time. So we are definitely not doing well.
You are not doing well? No. So you're doing very badly, actually.
We are doing very badly.
Yeah. It means that 54% of the cases are not resolved.
No.
I mean, if you had to be graded, will you become comfortable with a D?
I would have to pack my bags and go home.
You mean if you are not going to go beyond 50?
Yes.
Okay. So you promise us that this resolution rate will go up the next time we meet?
From the figures that I have when I report for the other financial year, we'll still be struggling with the same issues that I said we're struggling with, the issues of responsiveness and implementation.
So you are resigned to a D, 46%?
I'm trying to engage with my stakeholders for us to improve the resolution rate.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You did allude to COVID as a constraint.
Yes.
To some of the resolution of the cases. Can we still give COVID as an excuse now, 3 years?
No, we can't. Remember, this was for the period in question that COVID also hampered our ability to...
Oh, okay, during the time.
During the time.
But for now,
you
can't cite COVID.
We can't cite COVID.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Backlog is becoming a very fashionable term in the proceedings of PAC. We've just been talking to Industrial Court and they're talking about backlog. You have a backlog of about 691. And what is your target here in terms of dealing with this backlog? Because it's obviously related to the resolution. Do you have any strategy? Do you have any plans? Do you have any targets of dealing with the 691 backlog?
You recall, Chair, that I said that some of our backlog constitute of cases where recommendations have not been implemented. And some of the explanations given by the accounting officers would be, for instance, if it was a payment of money, they would say, even though you made that recommendation in this financial year, we have not budgeted for it and can only meet it in the next financial year, which means the case then remains in our books as backlog until the matter is resolved.
How often do you engage with accounting officers?
We engage from time to time. We'll identify a problem department and then call our ministry and call them. And so we do it one at peak force, maybe twice a year. We talk to them about ombudsman problems and issues, and then individually, as and when we determine that there is need to engage with the ministry.
Compliance with the ombudsman could be a reportable item in our committee. I must say I agree with you on that one. Maybe members of parliament are also listening. I think as and when you find it necessary, we can engage with accounting officers on this particular issue of the ombudsman, whether or not they,
Perhaps he can also just submit those recommendations for the committee.
Yeah. Are you able to submit those recommendations?
No, we can.
Yes, so that we know which ministries are,
yes,
are giving you a headache. And sorry about the next question. It's not meant to demean or do anything to your person. You're highly respected individual in society. And others who came before you are equally very respectable people. When I said I'm going to be meeting the Ombudsman's office, somebody said, but it's easy. Ombudsman ka nako ya ga the late Maine. Would you think it's unfair to characterize you as being CTD?
I'll tell you where people have that sense. You see, people have heard of ombudspersons such as Thuli Madonsela, for instance, in the state capture scenario.
Yes.
And they forget that the ombudsman in any country operates from a set of laws and regulations, and therefore the warmth or the heat or the punch of the ombudsman is going to be determined by the powers that the law give them. So, for instance, we do not investigate issues of that type of public interest as, for instance, the likes of Bo Madonsela would have investigated. People sometimes say, why are you not running after these corruption cases? But that's not our mandate. It's the mandate of other agencies in government.
So
but we do appreciate that people think that the ombudsman is not.
So we still do dira ke mola o operator
mo go
mola wa teng wa le constrainer o dira gore lebe ga ke to ka re ga le batho ba ba tshwaetseng thata because le na le mola o
re constrainer
hira me a go ntse jalo bone mme ba o berekang le bone mo di officing tsa puso ya ka o bua gore ba bangwe ba bone la gona le recommendation how they just sit on it ba respond o tsa gore a me ba tota office ya gago mo go lekane gongwe me go ka dirwa eng gape gore ba e tote mo go lekane.
I think we need to one have a stricter provision in the law about compliance with the recommendations or non-compliance with the recommendations, such that where there is a wanton failure, then a person should be held to account.
I give you an opportunity to lobby us as members of parliament. Lobby us as members of parliament. What do you think we should change in the current
legislation,
in the current law?
Yes,
that would empower you or even give you more respect from your colleagues in the ministries. We are open to be lobbied.
Yes. I'm a bit reluctant to say that the recommendations be now renamed orders, because, like I said, it's a matter of the investigative process that leads to that decision. But I think what we want to have in the legislation is to actually have a provision that would say a recommendation should be complied with as if it were a court order, something like that.
That you think will help?
That would help. And that there be consequences for failure. Okay.
I think members of parliament are listening. They may want to do a private members bill that would include that. You are listening, members of parliament. Yeah, I think those are some of the questions that I've had prepared. I will start with Honorable Monareng. He wants a follow-up.
Thank you, Chairman. Talking of recommendations, I believe you'll remember a case that was between BTV and opposition political parties way back in 2017, I think, around 2017. And Office of Ombudsman had to investigate, and their findings were to the effect that indeed Botswana Democratic Party by then was receiving around 80% coverage compared to, say, under 20% coverage by political parties combined. And in light of its findings, the Ombudsman Office recommended that BTV ought to be regulated by legislation, creating an independent organ along the lines of South Africa and maybe SABC and the English-British Broadcasting Corporation, BBC. In addition, the report recommended that time slots should be allocated to all parties to ensure that they are to equally convey their political messages and programs to the public. My question is, this is way back in 2017. Was your recommendation adhered to, or unfortunately it was simply ignored, as you mentioned earlier on, that maybe you need to be given more powers. This is in line with Section 8 of the Ombudsman Act, equal opportunities being given to all the parties. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Advocate?
No, I wouldn't recall. I don't think we did a specific follow back on in terms of the allocations of opportunities within the broadcast media.
You did not make a follow-up, you said?
We did not make a follow-up.
But that concerns me a lot, and the public, I believe. I'm talking of a complaint that was brought to your office, and the office did investigations, and they ruled in favor of opposition parties and made recommendations that this should be done in accordance with the Act. So if 8 years later, it's mentioned that we are not sure whether they followed our recommendations, that's a bit surprising.
Why did you make a follow-up? I mean,
in fact, Chair, I was going to make a tongue-in-cheek response that having made the recommendation, if it was not followed, the person whose shoe had the most should have come back and said, but we still have that problem. There's been non-compliance.
I'm still on the floor, and
yeah, you're still on the floor.
Yeah, I don't think it's the right attitude in your office. Maybe say you are in private sector. If you make recommendation to your staff or to anybody to do this, if it's not done, I think there's need to follow up. Otherwise, then that recommendation was not really given in good faith or is not taken seriously by the Ombudsman. I believe the recommendation that your office do give, they ought to see to it that, not necessarily see to it, they should follow up. I'm talking of a recommendation done in 2017. And
yes, I think he got your point.
Yes, thank you.
To respond.
No, I think I admit that, and that's why I said my first response was tongue-in-cheek. Yeah, we made a recommendation, and we really favorable to the complainant. We are still not getting the coverage. Maybe come back and say, Ombudsman, have not complied. But anyway, I think also Lerona as Ombudsman, looking at it would have actually called for us to put resources in monitoring the implementation of that particular recommendation. And I don't think we would have been resourced enough to do that.
Ke go teng yo se thako se mo hisang ene ke ena ka e sala morago rona re bone gore ne re ka e kgona ka ha dikgang di ntseng ka teng mme re ka tswelela.
Nyamione, you, Chairman, I'd just like to close it.
I thought
I'm sorry, but I don't think the Ombudsman has been fair to say we don't have resources to follow up our recommendations. That's very, very unfair and regrettable, because it doesn't need resources to check whether BTV is doing in line with our recommendation. It needs just checking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think you have to respond. If you have to, you can combine it with another.
Thank you. I think one can spend a second on the same issue, but
It's fine.
In the interest of time, let's go to what the Ombudsman said earlier. He made it clear to this committee that he has plans and intentions to reach out to the larger society community out there. But in the year under review, there was an office Yamaun, which I believe Hueyaga was intended to increase Swane's staff. Perhaps Okaritsi, how far with the project now? Because in Askaya due to whatever termination that took place. How far now?
The project stands at 56% completed since the contractor abandoned site. And we've had, as I indicated, engagement with the responsible agencies in government who manage the construction of our projects to help us get a new contractor to finish. We have been allocated an amount of around 5 million to get the procurement of the new contractor in place. But of course, we are subject to the wherewithal of the ministries involved to actually procure the same. But I have raised it to the highest level that I can for engagement with those other ministers.
So where you sit, you are not in a position to even risk giving a date of completion near the project?
No, we can't, because even with the amount that we have been allocated for this financial year, we would not even complete the project if we were to start it.
On a part in short, what is your staff complement countrywide?
Countrywide, we stand at 120. That is both investigators and support staff.
And from this...
And 37 investigators.
The 37 investigators, what sort of background do they have for them to do their work?
These are legal investigators, so these are lawyers.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Kikhonerile.
Thank you. On the status of the Maung office, Rahutwa kontraka o tsamaile madi wa hilwa manyenyane gompieno go dira Ministry of Infrastructure gone on issue ya madi ya go identify a contractor. Yes, you have done your all. We will take it le rona le bone ha ba le gone le other avenues. But on issue of funds, in terms of having enough funds to complete the project, what are you doing about it in terms of sourcing funds or diverting what you can within the department so that you can augment the little that we have and complete the project? There's an element of supplementary that's likely to take place very soon. So what's the direction that you're taking?
No, I think the big challenge for us has been the non-availability of technical people from the respective agencies in government to help us run the project. So, for instance, last year we allocated about 25 million, which we had to return. because we couldn't even start the project running afresh because there were no people available to start the project from the other departments, infrastructure. What I'm thinking is that even when we were to start, we could start the project afresh. We have not even started the procurement of the contractors for the amount that we've been allocated, which probably would take about 6 months to get the consultants to put together the project going forward. So we will not even ask for money at the supplementaries to start the project because we will not definitely finish it or start the actual construction this financial year.
The last one.
Okay, that's fine.
So what you are saying, ke hore, the Maun staff and people might as well forget the office for this year. There are a number of recommendations you have made, most probably against the government. It's a Honorable Monageng, those of big magnitude, not of individual complaints. Are you amenable to passing the list to PAC for PAC to help monitor as other departments, other ministries come here, tsabo the fly machine in the past, let's say
No, we definitely are, sir.
You are amenable to that.
We
You can provide that information.
We can provide that information.
Okay.
Those are not secret or confidential documents that we can keep from a committee such as this.
Yeah. So you'll pass the information to our secretaries.
We'll do that.
Is it also possible to provide the age of the cases that fall under your backlog? Age in terms of this case has been on for 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, 9 years? Just not providing the details of the names, but just the age of the cases. Is that a possibility?
We can see what to do.
You can see what to do.
You know, we'll put and see how aged they are.
Yes, because, you know, it's very worrying that earlier on we were told there's a case spanning over 10 years. But then I think if you are able to produce that, give it to our secretariat. Thank you. And the last one is here. You know, we have recently had a change of government. Rider on the idealism of a new government. Do you pusher di hetole? Ni bile gape ha ile government yo ke o buang thata ka human rights. Along the lines of what I'm thinking, alena le dipesele di akantse le batlang gongwe le ka grab at the moment what this moment has changed. Wa opuso gore jaanong ne yana rona re le ombudsman re batla tse di latelang di hetolwa di tsamaelane le the anchor which is human rights. This is the last one.
Thank you, Chair. You recall that in terms of the Act, the Ombudsman Amendment Act of 2021, the Ombudsman is constituted as the National Human Rights Institution, such that we therefore become an investigative body, specifically in black and white, that is, to investigate human rights abuses and human rights breaches in the country. But we are also enjoined to advise government on compliance with human rights standards, with human rights treaties and conventions, as also to engage in in an intensive drive, public education on the area of human rights. But on the last one, most disappointingly, we had sought a budget of close to 8 million to do public education in the area of human rights. But we got 0 for that, for this financial year. So we obviously need more resources in the area of enabling the Ombudsman to discharge the mandate under Section 10.2 of the new Act in the area of human rights.
Okay. So what you are saying is that perhaps one of the things that you consider to be very high in your priorities would be an increased budget for public information.
For public education.
For public education. That is
Yes.
very high on your agenda.
That's very high on our agenda.
But in terms of the legislation that exists, you really are okay because you've been given the human rights mandate.
No, I think obviously we are looking at the act, and there are certain thoughts that we are looking at to propose amendments in the act to enable us to discharge that function more adequately.
Yes. Yeah, me. Yeah,
I have the quick ones.
Ha puso e tšhentšhile yana go bata ga ngwe le thaganele ka pele le diretse le bona di ka diragala mme ebile gore le tsamaelana le yone theme le yone anchor ya puso yo ka nako eo ke ra gore just as an advice to yourselves. The last one
quick one, Chair. Nyane ke le mo go ya backlog of cases. Gongwe accounting officer sengwela se motho a ka eletsang go se tlhaloganye gore a mme ga o ise o itemogele gore go na le di-case dingwe tse beng ba tsone yano ba di abandonnang ka go ithoboga ke raya ka gore kana ga motho a tisa case kosing yago wa ba solohetse gore e tare kana kakanyele gore tare within a short period of time e be le gore gongwe o bonye thuso mme ano ga e le gore go tsaya nako a ga lise le itemogele in your office gore batho ba hella ba togela di-case mo tseleng.
Yeah, mme Batswana ba tshela ka tsholohelo, Chair. Ba tshela ka tsholohelo. We haven't had situations where people literally abandon the cases. They will say yes, if Ludiaga will go and look for other interventions at other places whilst they are continuing with their investigations. So I'm going to minister, president, jalo jalo.
Okay. Ora ora ya re yo te Motswana re solo hello ga thabise ditho ba tshela ka yone
ba tshela ka yone
me ke tsa gore ra buile maretsane mo the accounts and the finance director ke tsuro bidwa mang ko office ya lona ba controller of finance chief accountant. Can you please, chief accountant, introduce yourself?
Mr. Tiro Mavel Mohopa.
Hey, re simolotse o ise go roge mme ga o late ka ne re hile nako gore hela gore gore the advocate o tile e pele ga nako ra bo re simolola mme ka nna go rogelwa ke foromane pele a ke re rautan ga ko re simolola tiro ya rona ka go ikana mme ta go kopa ro eme ka dinao o to ikane ha o ikana ka baebele ba ta go inela ha e le gore ke affirmation le yone e ka nna jalo ba le go la gago la molema gora gore tiro wa o tantsala morago ai bo bua leina la gago
Mr. Tiro Mavel Mohopa.
a re simolole sentle I,
Mr. Tiro Mavel Mohopa.
Swear by Almighty God.
Swear by Almighty God.
That the evidence I shall give.
The evidence that I shall give.
To this committee of parliament.
To this committee of parliament.
Shall be the truth.
Shall be the truth.
And nothing else but the truth.
And nothing else but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Re tawore tota dipotso tsotlhe tsone ke tsa ga accounting officer mme ha e leng gore o taba gongwe dipalo tsa madi di motsietsa re tawore beile mo go wena ka one mabaka a gore wena o le thalela madi ano re tawore beile mo go wena motho advisor, can you please lead us?
Let's go to page 26. We monitor that table. And 27 is monitor. If I could ask this Ombudsman office, what was the original contract amount? In terms of costs, Ombudsman office,
For the year 21-22, nehilwe 6.5 million.
Okay,
Yeah.
not for the year. The original contract.
The original contract.
Yeah.
Eh,
But let's move on. And then statement, page 28, we monitor. 29, monitor. This one, this company can terminate today. More page 30. So retention ya gore does then gore anu madi a teng a go governmentan. What's
At the moment, we are still holding the money. We don't know how it's going to go forward. Yeah. It's not yet clear where Rahudiranga Madiati.
Sorry, Chair. Rebuaka page 8. Mind works. We thought it's construction of a new office. It's maintenance. Or they were given maintenance of the old office and construction of the new office. Because the amounts here were 37,000. I don't think an office can be constructed at this amount.
37 is a different amounts. It's the sum of different amounts. 37,000.
But the issue is construction and maintenance. The actual amount by our due okay. But both 87,000. Specifically, can we construct and maintain? 37,000, construct and maintain. 55,000, construct and maintain. Can I get different stages? It's a payment or inspector or dual or inspector or dual.
Different stages.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a different transactions.
And page 32, can you resubmit this table? Hey, resubmit this table to Accountant General Bornella because, yeah.
Mike, I get what they say 2-1. I get all right by mistaken or.
It's a typing error. It's like a 31.
O no ile mogile before. So no emetse gore o botse potso. No, there is no page 31.
Oh.
Kana kore kara gore ha o tsena. Nka be re lo ta o le mogile potso wa bo kopa gore re correct. So how did you mala we don't know whether you did it by mistake or page 31 ga iyo.
Yeah, you post right.
I'm done. Jay, over to you.
You are done?
Yes. Over to you.
Okay. So we are done altogether. Okay.
The contract amount.
Oh, the contract amount?
The contract amount is in page 21. Page 21.
Okay.
Chairman.
How much is contract amount?
20 million. And is this the expenditure to date was 5 million. Let me just check this.
So, Kechi,
Sorry, Chairman.
just hold. They are sorting out something here. The contract amount is how much? 20 million?
go siame ne ke batla go itse gore to date, given the termination, how much have they spent? It's fine.
Honorable Kgonegile, you still want? Yeah, okay. Right.
If the contract sum is over 20 million, and then I will keep you 37,000 for purposes of maintenance for a period of 5 years. Is it enough?
Is it saying that? Is it for 5 years? Is it for 5 years, advisor? Is the maintenance amount written there, 37,000? Is it for 5 years or is it just for the?
It's written there. The funds.
They will explain because it's not the whole amount. It's just the.
Yeah.
I guess that's what you're saying.
37 is a total of different amounts. 37,000 is different amounts.
So, but his question is, will 37 million be adequate for purposes of maintenance over time? That is your question.
More so that is written there. The funds are within retainable period of 5 years.
Yeah.
No, Kana, if we should be looking at it against, we should be looking at it against the 5 million. You're looking at it against 5 million. Also, it's an address. Because like retention, they do it with every certificate they retain. Habaduela they retain. Habaduela they retain. So you compare it with the 5 million.
Thank you very much. Oh, Accountant General, you wanted to say something?
Oh,
You
thank
okay?
you. We have also noted that the progress to date is 56%, and yet they have paid only 25%, which is 5.5. Are they not going to attract penalties? Are you not going to attract penalties for the amounts that are still outstanding to make it 56%, the payment? Thank you.
Where we stand, Chair, is that we've actually ourselves levied LADs. So the penalties actually are owed to government for non-performance.
Okay.
Let's agree it's a monitor anyway. It's a monitor, so
Auditor General, you keep on monitoring, but she was saying that it may just turn out that they may want to demand some money from yourselves because they have done 56% of the work and only about 20% has been paid, so they may demand. But you are saying because of non-performance, they are the ones who owe you some money.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Then the next question will be, if they're all government money, what action are we taking as government to recover the money?
We have actually considered, we've placed this before the ministry dealing with infrastructure for them to calculate what is due to government. Because in addition to this, we have monies owed to subcontractors, and these guys have literally disappeared. It was a small company. They've disappeared, and I think Ministry of Public Works Infrastructure are failing to find them before we can even send the Aegis chambers to follow them up.
Okay. It's already already buile advocate ombudsman udutule le phata la gago hala ana mo go lekaneng tseo di soloheditseng gore le tale ka gore le ana mise le phata le gore go batho ke tsa gore o utule kgang ya backlog le yone ke tsa gore o utule le information e re ikopileng e dumela gore e ta goroga jaaka re ikopile re utule le wena o buile ka gore le tla tlhoka madi a ka tshwara 8 million for public education maybe le gape re utule gore ha ne le go aka wena no ka batla gore le lomologe mo ministry o le wa justice and correctional services gore te le kgone go maintaina your independence ke dikgang tse re di utlwileng mme se re se kopang ke gore ga re hetse re ta mo reporting e latelang re batla gore gongwe go lebege gore go na le improvement mo go tsenneng di re tshwenya gompieno nna ke dumela gore e tla re mo nakong pele ga ngwaga o wela ke be le mo go yena advisor re tabo re kopana gape re kopana yaanong re leba report ya bo 62 ya PAC mme re sologela gore re tla bona dipharologanyo mo dipalong tse nne re di bona di a tshwenya 46% resolution 691 backlog di tshwenya hela thata mme ka magoko a kalo this session e ema go neha re olaletsa dijo tsa motshegare.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity.
Thank you.